What's going on, Nostalgia Maniacs? I just wanted to take some time to say thank you for tuning in, no matter where you're listening, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching live on YouTube or Twitch. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to take a trip down memory lane each and every week. If you would, please like and share on whatever platform you're on. It really helps keep the nostalgia alive. Now, as always, let's get nostalgic.
'80s glow, the '90s flare, joystick battles and pixel care. Each tale we tell, each laugh we share. It's a gamer's journey beyond compare. Nostalgia Mania, press start and see the games of the past where we long to be. Tune in each week, it's time to rewind. Retro memories for the gamer's mind.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to this special bonus episode of Nostalgia Mania, the ultimate trip back to the games, movies, toys, and memories that made the 80s and 90s and early 2000s unforgettable. Imagine a world where cartoons never stopped, 24 hours a day, nonstop animation. In the early 90s, one bold idea made that dream a reality, bringing classic favorites and future legends together on one channel. Tonight, we will reminisce about the early years of Cartoon Network. I am your host, the real Josh Elliott, and with me, as always, Stitch a Effin' Mania. What's up, man?
Not a lot. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. It is a impromptu episode on a Tuesday night. We haven't been live on a Tuesday night in a while.
No, we have not.
Kind of started off on Tuesday and transitions to Wednesday there for a while. Went back and forth, and we were on Wednesday. Yeah, so middle of the week, you're gonna get some nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
So, how you doing, man? How have you watched any of the spring training stuff going on yet?
No, I've caught a little bit of glimpses of some of the games, though, like just some of the scores and some of the teams playing, but nothing worth watching. But speaking of baseball, it came across on the bottom of ESPN which I didn't even know it was a thing, but the Yankees lifted their 49-year ban of facial hair. The only facial hair that they allowed for the players to have was a mustache. Which, honestly, did you even know that was a thing?
I did not. I've never heard of that.
Exactly. See, I didn't either until I saw that. But yeah, apparently it was something that George Steinbrenner he implemented, and players were not allowed to have scruff, beards, just a mustache, and that was it. And then his son, Hal Steinbrenner, lifted it and said it because I guess it actually affected getting people to sign with the Yankees because they didn't want to shave their facial hair. So, which that makes sense. I mean, who the hell would want to do that? Not me.
Yeah, if you've got a good looking beard,
yep,
you ain't gonna want to shave that. But then again, millions of dollars speaks. So
yeah,
you're gonna get signed by the New York Yankees, and they're like, you know what, you're gonna shave that. I'm shaving it. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, beard. I'll grow you back out later.
Yep. So I just thought that was pretty interesting, man, because I didn't even know it was a thing.
No, yeah, me neither. That's crazy. But yeah, this is like I said, impromptu episode. I did watch kind of bouncing back and forth. Sorry. I did want to talk. I did see this was a couple days ago. Might have been the first game. The Royals, it was 11-10, I think, was one of the spring training scores. The Royals won, which was pretty cool. And then I always like seeing some of the young kids that may or may not. We hopefully at some point in time we'll see them in the big leagues, but they always get a chance down at spring training, and it's just cool to see kind of the future of the team. And coming off a pretty good season last year, made the playoffs and made a pretty good run at it. So not used to watching the Royals in the postseason, right? We've only seen it twice in our lifetime.
Yep.
And it was 14 and 15, and it was pretty cool to see him again and not have to wait 30 years.
Yeah, for sure,
man. But yeah, so this is like we said, this is a bonus episode, not going to count toward the episode number that you're going to see on YouTube and all of our podcast platforms. It'll just say bonus off to the side. We are going to talk about the beginning, the birth, the early years of Cartoon Network. So before we do that, I would like to just tell everybody where you can find Nostalgia Mania as we do each and every week. If you're listening to us right now on the podcast platform, we are available on every podcast platform that you can listen to. All of our episodes are uploaded. We're live each and every week on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Just search Nostalgia Mania. We're on the YouTube channel, JSE Studios. We're at the Twitch channel, The Real Josh Elliott. And we're at Facebook at Nostalgia Mania. All the social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, X, are all listed as Nostalgia Mania. Go follow us. We post pretty regularly on Facebook and Instagram, occasionally on X. And yeah, and pretty much the same thing for you. Derek, where can everybody follow you on social media?
Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, X, Instagram, YouTube. So yeah, just all of them. So, but Facebook is the one I use the most. So,
absolutely, go give Stitch a follow on his Facebook page. He would greatly appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
I just heard myself. So let's get into this, man. Let's start talking about the first ever 24-hour all animation network, Cartoon Network, launched, which a lot earlier than I thought it did. It was October 1st of 1992 was when Cartoon Network was launched. A woman by the name of Betty Cohen created Cartoon Network, and basically Ted Turner appointed Cohen as the network's first president, and then Turner Broadcasting purchased Hanna-Barbera's animation library in 1991. So at that point, Turner basically selected Cohen to create a network to air these cartoons, this library that they acquired. And then on October 1st, 1992, Cartoon Network launched as the first 24-hour cable channel dedicated to animation. And can you take a guess at what the first show or cartoon was to be aired on Cartoon Network? It's an oldie, so you gotta think back. It's not something you'll.
Is it a goodie?
It is a goodie. It's a very goodie. It's one of the best old ones.
I'm going to probably say the Flintstones.
That's a good guess. That is a good guess. The first ever was Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck. The episode Rhapsody Rabbit was the first episode to air on Cartoon Network. And just seeing this screenshot alone, for those of you watching live, this one right here, I immediately know what episode it is. I mean, it's Bugs playing a piano, battling that mouse while he's trying to play a song. and it's just extremely chaotic. And he's in front of a crowd trying to play the song, and the mouse keeps hitting the keys and changing it up. So that was it. Rhapsody Rabbit. Daffy Duck was in this one as well, for a brief stint, but there you have it. So
Wow.
how much Looney Tunes did you watch as a kid?
A lot, man. I used to be obsessed with the Looney Tunes. Really, like I have like a collection of Looney Tunes stuff.
Really?
And yeah, like nobody really knows that. And I also had like a smaller collection of Scooby-Doo stuff as well. But yeah, Looney Tunes. Bugs Bunny was obviously my favorite. He was probably lots of people's favorites. And it's kind of crazy to think, man, that the same guy did a lot of the voices for the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Mel Blanc, I think his name is Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, lots of great characters that were created in the Looney Tunes. Yeah.
I loved one of my favorite Looney Tunes shows was the Roadrunner. And it was there was no dialogue. It was just straight chaos. Wile E. Coyote trying to catch the Roadrunner, doing all sorts of things, painting tunnels on a wall, and he rounds into it. I mean, it's the funniest thing,
Yeah.
And even now, like my kids, there's a show. I'm not even sure exactly what it's called, but it's on Netflix. And it's called like Grizzly and the Lemmings, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a big grizzly bear that gets bothered by I'm not even sure like what these little animals come in to bother them, and there's like a bunch of them, and that's all it is, and there's no dialogue in that either, and the kids love it. And I say, well, I guess you get it from me, because I loved Roadrunner. Didn't have much talking. Also, Tasmanian Devil, dude.
Yeah.
You know what? Anytime Tasmanian Devil was on I loved it.
Yep.
So
yeah, man. I actually have so my uncle on Super Nintendo, he had a Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote game, and I used to play the crap out of it. And basically, what it was you were Roadrunner, and you would just go through the levels, dodging Wile E. Coyote. You could run fast, do all kinds of stuff, man. It's fun. I haven't played it in a long time, but
you were Roadrunner on a road, right? And you were just running down the road, and you were like dodging, going back and forth, like.
Not really. You were jumping up on stuff, just kind of going through the level,
You're right. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Sorry, I got that mixed up with the Tasmanian Devil one, where you're Taz in the middle of the street running down, and you have to jump, between three different lanes. That's my bad. Yeah. I remember that. I remember that Roadrunner game. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, Rhapsody Rabbit was the first show on Cartoon Network, along with a lot of classics.
Yeah.
The old school cartoons that we say now old school. Back then, they probably weren't so old school because they weren't that old back then. Yeah. But I mean, you had Tom and Jerry aired on that first day of Cartoon Network. Yep. Also Hanna-Barbera. The Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo. Yep. Let's talk about some of them, man. Like what I mean, you were a big Scooby-Doo fan, right? What's your history talk or watching Scooby-Doo?
Just, every time it was on, man, I'd always get so excited because it was just one of my all-time favorite shows. The only bad thing about that show is when the song would play the intro, you would almost think that it was another episode playing, but it was actually the end of the episode. And it'd be like, well, that sucks. And then something else would come on, but yeah, man. I loved Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo was awesome. And Scrappy-Doo was awesome. The
Puppy Power.
And what's crazy is, I think I mentioned this in a previous episode that the guy who plays Fred is actually the voice of Megatron in Transformers, and he's also, I believe, Raphael from the original Ninja Turtles series cartoon. Frank Walker, something like that. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, I was always a big Scooby-Doo fan as well, and we still have it on the TV every once in a while. Kids like it, even the old ones. I mean, I know they've remade it and the graphics get a little bit better and the animation's better, but nothing beats that 80s, early 90s Scooby-Doo episodes.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, so because that show was in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And actually it might have even been in the late 60s, early 70s. And what's crazy too is Casey Kasem, the guy who played Shaggy. He was actually on the radio because he had Casey Kasem's 40 countdown, or Casey's, something like that. I forgot. But it was the top 40 countdown. And because I used to listen to that all the time going to sleep. Because Casey Kasem just had one of those voices, man. It stuck out.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Shout out to CR Media in the chat. Chase Riley. Autumn is here, as she is every single week. Jacob Whitney, favorite night of the week. I like it. We may need to go live on Tuesday nights more often. Scooby-Doo, yes. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. So I did want to show this. I've got the here's the evolution of the Cartoon Network logo. And I think they actually had an older logo when they first started back in 1991. But they only used it for a very brief time. And then obviously the one on the top left from 1992, 2004, that's the one that we are the most familiar with because that's when we were watching it as kids. Obviously now it's kind of had some transitions. Now they just see the CN logo.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of, different variations, much like Pepsi likes to do, where they just tweak the logo a very little bit and say, hey, this is new. Like the Cleveland Browns that one year when they changed the color from their helmet to orange to dark orange.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it really different? But this is the evolution of the Cartoon Network logo. Like we said, we saw like the Flintstones were one of the cartoons that aired that first day when they released it back in 1991. Again, it's an extreme classic. Looney Tunes was on there. Also, Yogi Bear was on there that first day. It's a great show. But also on top of that, again, I said the Jetsons already. If you guys remember, we had Huckleberry Hound. I love that show. That was on there that first day. The Smurfs, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, man, Rocky and Bullwinkle, dude.
Yeah,
man, that was one of my all-time favorite cartoons, and I honestly I don't know why. I loved it, man. I loved Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, dude, and think about it. Like that was all the first day. Like that is the Hanna-Barbera. The Turner obtained all of those likenesses, the licenses, and they said, you know what? That's why they made this network, because all these cartoons are fantastic. We want to get a place to display them for everybody to watch.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I did. Again, I never realized Cartoon Network started that early. Did you?
Yeah. No, not at all. No.
Like, I wasn't introduced.
I knew it was early, but not,
Yeah.
I
was a big Nickelodeon watcher. Growing up, and again, also PBS, but it wasn't introduced to Cartoon Network until, and we'll get into it a little bit later, was Cartoons when they started making their own cartoons, when they actually were owning and creating and developing their own. So and then they started doing those commercials, which actually is a good lead in to the first video which is going to show you kind of a commercial that was advertising some of their cartoons. So let's or their network as well. So let's take a look at it.
First day? Sheep in the big cafeteria. Stick to your own kind.
Check it out, boo-boo.
Hey, gang.
Hey, Fred.
Now that he's friends with the Powerpuff Girls, Fred thinks he's too good for us.
Get lost, sheep. You're on my seat.
This table's reserved.
Villains only. Come on, Sheep. You can sit with us.
Yes, go sit with the freaks.
Freaks? Have you looked in a mirror? Listen up. When it comes right down to it, we're all freaks. Every one of us. And that's what makes this network great. Who you calling freak, freak?
Cartoon Network, the best place for cartoons. This is why I never come here anymore.
God.
What a great commercial. I remember watching that as a kid, man. That's great stuff.
Yep.
Great stuff. Chase commented, Dexter, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken. Yes, those are all the ones that's when I was introduced to Cartoon Network. Those were all three developed and owned by Cartoon Network. So not saying the other ones weren't owned, but it was developed and created by. Yeah, so let's go ahead and tell us. I mean, we talked a little bit about the shows, but tell us any of your early memories that you remember of Cartoon Network. It doesn't have to be in the very early stages. It can be like middle 90s when cartoons came out, but just talk to us about any of your favorite cartoons that may have aired on Cartoon Network.
Dude, there's quite a few, man. I mean, you've pretty much mentioned a lot of them. You know, the Flintstones, the Jetsons. You know, they had that crossover episode between the Jetsons and the Flintstones, which was an awesome episode, classic.
Yep.
Rocky and Bullwinkle. And you know, the crazy thing is Rocky and Bullwinkle was it first aired in 1959. That's how old that show is, because it aired from 1959 to 1964, and then the Flintstones, they aired in 1960, and their last episode was 1966. So it's crazy that all these TV shows and cartoons that we love so much are old. Like really old, like
damn near 60 years old. Yeah.
I mean, they're older than some of our parents,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or they came out, you know, at least before some of our parents. But yeah, man, just, you know, and not necessarily Cartoon Network in general, man, but like, you know, as a kid, you could get up Saturday morning, be the first one usually awake, run in the living room, turn on that TV, man, and you were watching cartoons till probably 10 o'clock, you know, maybe a little later, just depending on when your mom or your dad got up and decided to take over the TV, you know?
Yep.
And, you know, like the great thing, you know, if your mom got up first, you know, she would be the one to cook you breakfast. Or cook everybody in the house breakfast, and you were sitting there eating your breakfast and watching cartoons, man. Like as a kid, there was nothing better than that.
No,
you know, I mean, the only thing that would have been better maybe is, you know, going to the store and buying a toy you really wanted. But you know, like times as a kid were much simpler back then.
Yep.
And you didn't have a care or worry in the world. You know, the only thing you'd get mad about is if you couldn't go outside and play with your friends, or if you couldn't get a toy, you know. So, yeah.
Yep. And that was the difference between Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, Disney, PBS. This was 100% cartoons. Like no matter what time of day, whether it was Saturday morning, like you said, or whether it was 2:00 in the afternoon, or if you turned on the TV at 1:00 in the morning, you're going to get cartoons.
Yep.
Whereas the other channels, Nickelodeon, yes, good in its own right. They had Nick at Night. They were playing, lots of good stuff on that channel as well, but it wasn't directed toward young children.
No.
Because you're not going to have a 5 or 6-year-old watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or
or whatever was on
Nickelodeon or Disney. There was Disney movies and stuff like that. So this one was all straight 100% cartoons. And my introduction to Cartoon Network was, like I said, was the introduction of cartoons. And I've got another screenshot here that's going to show us. This is what I remember the most about Cartoon Network. The Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, I Am Weasel, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Mike, Lou, and Og, which I did not watch too much of. Courage the Cowardly Dog, watched a bunch of that. Sheep in the Big City, didn't watch a lot of that, but I know they use that character in a lot of their commercials and promotions. And then after that, it starts getting into, I was a little bit older. I didn't watch much Cartoon Network, but they still were doing cartoons. And some of the newer ones, Grim and Evil, Codename Kids Next Door, those were a little bit later. I didn't watch too much of. But out of these right here, I'm agreeing with Chase. Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken. I loved Ed, Edd n Eddy. It was freaking hilarious. Loved Ed, Edd n Eddy. Dexter's Lab. Pretty much that whole top row is in my favorites. Autumn, right here. Loved Courage the Cowardly Dog. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Chase, Josh, when we were kids, Fresh Prince had just ended. Powerpuff Girls 2. Yes. Nick at Night was Leave It to Beaver and the Munsters. Okay, so you're right. So I was talking about Nick at Night in my adult life. I guess I didn't really watch Nick at Night as a kid, so I don't really know what was on that show. Johnny Bravo, Jason Wallace is in the house. Random fact, Powerpuff Girls were originally called the Kick-Ass Girls. Derek Stitch. And where I live now, it's basically giving Courage the Cowardly Dog vibes. Yes, out in the middle of nowhere. So any of these stick out? Stitch, did you watch a lot? I know you mentioned Powerpuff Girls. Did you watch any of these others?
Yeah, I saw some Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Grim and Evil. I saw probably a little bit of, but the other ones not so much. I do want to take a second though. Graffiti Games is actually my cousin who's up in the Branson area, and he actually owns his own store. They sell all kinds of stuff like Pokemon cards, I think Magic cards. I don't know about Yu-Gi-Oh! They do like probably some Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But yeah, he's got a store. He's been running for a few years now. So yeah, if you're ever up in the Branson area, man, go check him out, man. I've never been there yet. But if I'm ever up in that area, I definitely am going to stop by and say hello, and he better be there. So
you said Branson area, right?
Yeah, in the Branson area, yeah. So
okay. Right on. You kept saying up there, so you're throwing me off. We're
up there, down there,
yeah.
Whichever. So
yeah, go hit them up, man. Go check them out. Branson Graffiti Games. You'll have a.
And the crazy thing about that is I kept getting because if you sit there and you watch, if you look at your Facebook posts or your feed or whatever, your wall, whatever, and you're scrolling and you see stuff you see sponsored, Facebook posts or ads or whatever for certain companies or certain people, and Graffiti Games actually happened to be one of those people that I saw. And I ended up finding out through his sister that, or maybe it was his mom or my aunt and my other cousin, that he actually ran Graffiti Games. So I thought that was pretty cool. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of crazy how I came across that just randomly on Facebook. So definitely check it out.
For sure. Appreciate him and them for tuning in and commenting, interacting with the show. We appreciate it. So let's throw it to the final commercial that I've got for Cartoon Network. And this one aired, I think, on other channels outside of Cartoon Network.
Hurry up! We're not even supposed to be on this channel.
Cartoon Network is. Ooh, hey, pretty mama.
Johnny! Oh, Cartoon Network's got this thing right. It's called Cartoon Fridays, and we're on it. Hurry up! Okay! These are our shows. All your favorite cartoons back to back with a new episode every Friday. They're on Fridays at 7 over on Cartoon Network. You might like to switch over there now.
Somebody's coming!
We'll see you over there.
Hey!
Oh, dear.
Love it, man. Love it.
And
so much nostalgia.
And I forget, isn't Cartoon Network now defunct? Isn't it? Didn't they finally take it off the air? Or
no, it's still on.
Aren't they going to though? I thought I could have swore I read that somewhere. That
I can't confirm. I have not heard that if they are.
I think it was,
but they are still airing things. I believe. I don't watch. I mean, then again, I wouldn't be surprised because of the streaming and everything like that. I'm surprised more networks, unfortunately, aren't going out. But I mean, nowadays you're paying for 17 streaming services when it's much cheaper now and more, makes more sense to just get cable again. And you get all these networks in one package rather than paying for 17. So I think it's coming full circle.
Yeah.
So, also, man, do you remember this one here? I've got a screenshot here. Do you remember Top Cat?
Vaguely.
Not
a lot. I mean, I remember the show and like it being on, but just don't ask me what it's about.
Yeah, this is one that was aired pretty frequently in the early days of Cartoon Network. Also, this one here, Wacky Races. Don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember the dog.
Laughing all the time.
I just, and this screenshot just spilled out nostalgia for me, and I was like, yeah, this definitely remember this. This was on quite a bit in the early days of Cartoon Network. So, So, and also we talked about like Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, all that. One of my favorites as well, and I don't know how much you watched it, was Dexter's Laboratory. And me and my sister watched that all the time. Anytime it was on. And I remember a specific episode. It was like season 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly, but it was basically Dexter builds like a high-tech security system in his laboratory, and his sister Dee Dee, who's always the annoying, high-strung, always interrupting what he's trying to do, always runs down there, bypasses every defense that Dexter's trying to build to keep her out, and basically just used it as her like personal playground. And love that episode. And anytime I can see that one, there's always like one specific episode. If you watched Rugrats, I know it's Nickelodeon. There was a chocolate milk episode where they used the chocolate milk as a football, and the babies played football with chocolate milk and got chocolate all over the living room. That one for Rugrats. This one here, which I think was like called Dee Dee Locks and something Loch Ness Monster or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one sticks out to me. Is there any specific, and it doesn't really have to be pertaining to anything that we've talked about, if you want to go backwards to like Scooby-Doo, or is there any episodes that stick out to you from an animated standpoint that you remember really well?
Man,
Or you just remember the show in general?
Like episodes specifically, I don't really remember that well. But like episodes on like Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles, some of those I remember. And there was a time, man, that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air would come on when it was on TV. Well, it was after it aired, of course, or after it's gone off the air. There was a time where it could be literally on the TV playing, and within maybe a minute, I could literally tell you what the whole episode was about, because Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Yep. You know what? And I like Will Smith as an actor, man. And you know, I don't sit there and let all that personal crap and all that stuff get in the way. You know, if I like an actor for, you know, some of the movies or TV shows that he's done, then I'm gonna like that person. You know, I don't get too involved in who they're, you know, rooting for politically. You know, any side BS. You know, it is hard though when that person, you know, does something that they end up going to jail for, or, you know, something, you know, in a serious matter. It's a little harder to, you know, be a fan of them. But yeah. But really the Flintstones and the Jetsons Meet episode was really one of those episodes that stuck out a lot to me. But like, as far as like what the actual episode is, I can't really remember. You know, I'd have to, if I sat and probably watched some of the episodes like right now, then I could probably be like, oh yeah, I remember that, or, you know, but I couldn't be like, okay, this episode, this happened, this episode, this happened. No, it was way too long ago.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. They, you know, you spoke a little bit about, you know, actors, you know, Will Smith, and there were a few actually guest stars and kind of crossovers from Cartoon Network, and a couple of them were pretty big actually for Cartoon Network. Don't know if you knew this, but William Shatner was on Cartoon Network, voiced a villain in one of the Johnny Bravo episodes. Yeah. So I don't remember which one, but he was a villain. So if you look that up on Google, you can find out which one he was there. Mark Hamill played multiple characters, notably in Powerpuff Girls. Mike Judge.
Oh, really?
Was made a guest appearance. He was on Beavis and Butthead, which I think aired early on in Cartoon Network, and also was on and I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet. I'm gonna make my own little section here, but Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah,
he was interviewed on that show, and then Weird Al Yankovic was a guest star on Johnny Bravo and Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
So
and then Beavis and Butthead was actually on MTV as well.
Yeah.
And I used to love watching Beavis and Butthead. Now, I didn't really care for the music part of the show. I know that was like really integrated into the show, but I just liked more of the cartoon itself. And I also, which this could very well be a future episode, spoiler alert, is they have a Beavis and Butthead game that was out for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and which I need to add that to the list, because me and Josh have been, you know, thinking of like video games and stuff that we'd like to do for this show. And I mean, of course, I've added a lot more than he has here recently. But yeah, Beavis and Butthead was a fun game. It was an awesome game. Man, I'm kind of getting a little off topic and sidetracked here. But Mike Judge created Beavis and Butthead. He also created King of the Hill. He also wrote Office Space. And I think Mike Judge actually did a couple of the voices in both Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. I'm not quite sure. I mean, without actually looking it up, but I'm pretty sure he did. And Mike Judge also did the show on HBO called Silicon Valley, which is an awesome, awesome TV show. So yeah.
Nice. Did not know all that, man. That's awesome. And we're talking Mike Judge, and I told you he was on Space Ghost, which again, I can't believe that I completely left this out. Because Space Ghost Coast to Coast was a phenomenal, hilarious show. I don't know if you watched any of it.
I did, and when I would see it on instead of something else that I wanted to watch, I'd get mad and not watch it.
You know, I think I agree too. When I was a kid, it wasn't as funny, but you know, watching it when I was a little bit older, I understood the humor a little bit better. Yeah. And you know, it ran for like, I want to say it started in like early 90s, like 94, early stages of Cartoon Network, and then ran to like 2007, 2008. And like those, I mean, it kind of set the tone for, you know, what you know as Adult Swim now on Cartoon Network. It kind of, you know, it wasn't created back then, but I think that kind of paved the way for Cartoon Network to be like, you know what, I can make a still animated show and make it a little bit more adult friendly to get more adult viewers rather than just kids. Yeah. So, and I loved it, man. It was fun. It was a good show. I remember him like interviewing. He did Conan O'Brien one time, which was hilarious. He did Hulk Hogan one time, and like I think what they did is they interviewed him, and then they would cut and edit the interview to make it sound like super awkward.
Yeah,
and it was just funny. Like, it's a great show. And what I didn't realize back then was Space Ghost was actually like a show back in the 60s.
Wow.
And yeah, and all, like the what is it? Moltar, I think, was the producer, I think, of the show, or the character. He was in the original show, and then same with Zorak. All three of them were in the original show from back in the 60s, and then which I didn't realize until after the fact, but yeah, it was based on an actual cartoon from the 60s, so pretty funny. But
I know it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, they come out with like, you know, a channel specifically for cartoons. You know, like, where do they think, like, okay, we'll go back as far as we can go back and find these old relic for cartoons, you know, like Rocky and Bullwinkle and you know, Flintstones and stuff like that. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure that you know, I mean, these cartoons were airing, well, obviously they were airing, you know, back in the day. You know, it's kind of crazy to think, like, you know, like your mom or your dad or whoever, you know, watched those TV shows as kids themselves. And then when they see you watching it, you know, that's just
how
like
I am, dude. That's how I am with my kids. They watch the Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
I watched that a lot as a kid, and Justin loves it. And he'll always say, "Hey, Dad, this is your favorite. This is your favorite show." And I was like, it's definitely one of my favorites for sure. And it's the original too. Like, he watches the original.
Yeah.
They'll watch Tom and Jerry. I love Tom and Jerry. Again, another show that didn't have much dialogue. So I don't know. I guess I let's watching a lot of chaos and not a lot of talking. So you know,
and it's you know, and the one bad thing that can come from this nostalgia of all this is the fact that if you're an adult and you go back and you watch some of these TV shows and you're just kind of like, you know, you see weird stuff or stuff that you didn't get as a kid, or, you know, and you don't remember it being as good, you're just kind of like, man, that's just like disappointing, you know? And a big example of that, now this is off subject again, because that's what we like to do here, is Power Rangers. Power Rangers is a prime example of going back and watching a TV show that you loved as a kid and just realize it's just almost all of the same footage used over and over and over and over again. And the fact that even more so is that was it originally like a Japanese show, I believe, and they just took all the footage from it and just dubbed, some American voices over it. So that's it's insane, man. It makes you almost not even want to go back and watch some of these old cartoons and TV shows because that's what you run into. You could possibly run into stuff like that. So
You're always going to, man. You know, you're right. This Nostalgia Mania, this thing is bringing us back to the things that we loved as kids and growing up. But you're always going to get that. We look at things with rose-colored glasses, and when we start uncovering things, we're going to run into it in video. I mean, we're covering the games we love. At some point in time, we're going to get to games where we're like, where we didn't play as often, or where we say, man, I played that a lot, but I haven't played it, very much lately, or I haven't replayed it. And we're going to look back at it. We're going to be like, man, why did we like this? What happened? What is going on? Anyway, I love what we're doing here. This show is been a lot of fun. I mean, heck, we're getting ready to do 2 episodes this week. We're doing one tonight. We're going to go live again same time tomorrow night. We're going to get back on the game trail, and we're actually going to boom. Our show tomorrow night we're heading on over to the PC computer. And we're going to talk about Roller Coaster Tycoon for the PC, the original. And we'll probably touch on the second and third one a little bit. But this one's a game I played a lot. My sister played a lot. And I'm excited to kind of dive into it and kind of reminisce. So,
yeah, man, those graphics those are incredible, man. They look like they're dating all the way back to Windows 95. So
yeah,
that's probably when the original one came out. So
no, I'm pretty sure this was Windows 98. But still, yes, it is a fun time. So I can't wait to get into that. We'll chat about that tomorrow night on Nostalgia Mania episode 20. That's episode 20. This one would be 20, but we're not going to count it as an episode number. We're going to just call it a bonus. And then we'll probably sporadically go live like this in the middle of a week and
this is
talk about something.
Episode number 2.
Yeah, bonus episode number 2. The first one, well, technically, the first one was the Drinks of the 90s. This one's Cartoon Network, and I like going live. Yeah. This one, it's a lot more interaction from the viewers, and it's just a lot more fun than just us talking back and forth, and then there's nothing to go, communicate with. So
we actually have a third. Well, technically it would have been the second bonus episode, but me and Josh are trying to debate whether or not that we want to air it or not because it wasn't live, and there's some mistakes in it and stuff like that we did. But we're not going to go back and edit it. If we decide to post it, which I'm sure we will. We're just gonna let it ride. So, because I think it's more fun that way.
Yeah, we're not doing. We're not editing. What you hear on the podcast platform is what you heard live on, Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. If you're watching on Twitch, I'm not sure if we had any viewers on Twitch right now. We do have one viewer on Twitch. Has not commented, but appreciate you watching. Got a couple on Facebook, a couple on YouTube. Had some good viewership tonight, guys. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Chase Riley, Autumn, Jacob Whitney was in the house. We had Jason Wallace was here. Graffiti Games, go check them out down in Branson. Derek Stitch pulling double duty. He was in the chat as well. So, Stitch, you have anything to add to your Cartoon Network nostalgia before we close this bad boy out?
Not really, man. I think we've pretty much covered, pretty much everything we really wanted to talk about. There's probably quite a few shows that we didn't that we didn't necessarily cover, but they're definitely not forgotten. That's for sure. So
yeah, and I think we might pick a specific show and do an episode on that, but because we just glazed over Cow and Chicken and I Am Weasel and Powerpuff Girls. We didn't really dive into that. Johnny Bravo. Those shows in and of itself could be episodes where we dive more into the the creation of it, the creation of what Johnny Bravo was and the character. But this one was just kind of an overview of the introduction of Cartoon Network. So I think we did that pretty good.
So I did find out that Cartoon Network is still airing. It is still going on, but they shut down the website. So you can no longer go to the website. So I guess they like Warner Brothers, I guess, discontinued it. So it now apparently it directs you to like HBO Max or Max, the streaming service. So yeah. But
nice. Interesting. All right. Well, that's all I have, guys and gals in the chat. We will see you guys tomorrow night as we talk Roller Coaster Tycoon. Same time, same place. I am the real Josh Elliott. This over here is Derek Stitchamania Stitch. And as always, let's get nostalgic.
Through the 80s and 90s, the games we all know. From Mario's jumps to Sonic speed. Legends and Quest, every gamer's creed. Grab your controller, the stage is set. We're diving deep, don't you forget. Nostalgia Mania.